Okay, so I brought some of my friends from Storage Wars. These guys I have worked with the longest. Miss Laura Dotson, Miss Pay the Lady Laura Dotson.
Brandi Passante's final goodbyes have left Storage Wars fans in shock. For years, Brandi Passante has been by Jarrod Schulz's side, calling out bad deals, challenging egos, and keeping viewers hooked. But behind that confidence was a life far more complicated than the show ever revealed. From a relationship that wasn't what it seemed to a moment in Orange County that changed everything, Brandy is now saying goodbye to that life. So what was really happening behind the scenes? And how much of Brandy's story was hidden in plain sight? Join us as we reveal why Brandi Passante is saying goodbye forever. Brandy's beginnings. Born on May 16, 1980, in Harris County, Texas, Brandi Passante grew up in a chaotic household of toxic male energy. It was a tumultuous childhood, as she later described it, and the survival instincts she developed in that environment, learning to give dirty looks to keep people at a distance, would serve her well in the high-pressure world of storage auctions. Rather than pursuing her original passion for cooking, she eventually left Houston as a teenager and headed west, settling in California before she even turned 20. At that point, she was simply trying to build a stable, ordinary life far from the chaos of her childhood. That stability began in 1999, when she took a job at a carpet cleaning company in Tustin, California, where her manager of sales was a confident, fast-talking man named Jarrod Schulz. But something clicked between them, and soon after they met, they became life partners. As Jarrod began dragging home items from abandoned lockers, their house began to resemble a warehouse. City officials eventually told the couple they needed to open a storefront, which led to the creation of their thrift shop, Now and Then secondhand store, in Orange, California. It was in those early years that the Storage Wars family began to take shape, and no one loomed larger in Brandy's world than Daryl the Gambler Sheets. While Brandy and Jarrod were learning the ropes as the young guns of the auction circuit, Daryl was already a seasoned veteran who had been working the locker buying trade for over 35 years before the cameras ever arrived. He typically appeared with his son, Brandon, and sold his finds at swap meets rather than dealing with the overhead of a store. Yet, despite his on-screen rivalry with various cast members, Daryl and Brandy formed an unspoken bond behind the scenes. The producers of Storage Wars first spotted Brandy and Jarrod not at a casting call, but at an actual storage auction in Harbor City, California. The executive producer approached Jarrod and asked if he would be willing to speak for a few minutes on camera. "I guess we said the right thing," Jarrod later recalled. But when the production team later visited the couple's thrift store to finalize the deal, they met Brandy at the front counter and immediately realized they needed her too. For several years, everything ran smoothly. Storage Wars premiered in 2010 and quickly became a ratings hit. The cast became a group that audiences genuinely loved. The money was good, the fame was exciting, and for a moment, it felt like the life Brandy had pieced together from a turbulent Texas childhood had finally found solid ground. So when Brandy announced in her interview that she was done with her relationship with Jarrod, it took the Storage Wars world by surprise. How did the lovebirds even get there? The calm before the storm. Contrary to what millions of television viewers believed, Brandi Passante and Jarrod Schulz were never legally husband and wife. While A&E's official website promoted them as a husband and wife team of underdogs from the very first season of Storage Wars, the reality was far simpler and, in many ways, more complicated. For nearly 2 decades, they simply lived together as long-term partners. Their son, Cameron Schultz, was born first. He grew up surrounded by the chaos of storage lockers and thrift store inventory. But from an early age, he dreamed of becoming a film director, a path his father actively encouraged. Their daughter, Peyton Schulz, followed later. However, Peyton's entrance into the world came with immediate medical challenges. She was born deaf and with a cleft palate, requiring major surgery when she was only 6 weeks old. Meanwhile, their son Cameron faced his own health crisis as a teenager, undergoing a serious surgery that forced him to miss 3 months of high school. Through all of it, Brandy was the steady hand that kept the family moving forward. In 2014, at the height of their Storage Wars fame, the couple received their own spin-off series, Brandi and Jarrod, Married to the Job. The title alone was a piece of clever marketing, implying a legal union that did not actually exist. The show ran for 8 episodes and documented their life away from the auctions, raising their children, managing their second-hand store, and navigating the strange reality of being television personalities in their own home. Despite the show's cancellation after a single season, Brandi and Jarrod returned to Storage Wars and continued filming together, maintaining the image of a scrappy, bickering but loving couple. But behind the scenes, something had already begun to shift. According to multiple reports, Brandi called things off with Jarrod after they finished filming season 12, which premiered in November 2018. The split was quiet, and for the next 2 years, the couple kept their separation a closely guarded secret. They continued appearing together on Storage Wars as if nothing had changed. The truth finally came to light in June 2020, during a Facebook Live interview for The Dad Diary, hosted by former Storage Wars producer Danny Jordan. The interview was already notable because Brandi revealed she had recently tested positive for COVID-19 and had been quarantining alone for 12 days. But it was in the latter half of the conversation that she delivered the news fans had been quietly speculating about for months. When Danny asked her directly about being a single mother, Brandi confirmed that she and Jarrod had split, and that it had already been 2 years since the separation. But what exactly did Brandi see that made her leave her partnership with Jarrod? The first red flag. Jarrod's early years are shrouded in a secrecy that, for Brandi, might have been the first red flag. At just 19 years old, barely an adult, Jarrod was arrested on January 27, 1997, for felony possession of a controlled substance. He pleaded guilty and served 16 months in state prison. The full details of that arrest would later surface as part of his criminal history. But when young Brandi met him in 1999, she may have been charmed into believing that man was long gone. After his release, Jarrod struggled to find stable employment, eventually landing a job managing a carpet cleaning business in Tustin, California. It was there, behind the manager's desk, that he met the 18-year-old Brandi Passante. He was her boss. He was older, and as he later admitted, he wore her down with persistence. Jarrod was not hiding his core personality then. He openly admitted that a mutual friend had to leave notes on his truck, reminding him to be nice to Brandi, because he could be abrasive. That was the word he chose for himself, abrasive. But if anyone asked his other cast members, they might use words like petty, impulsive, hot-headed, and aggressive. Within the storage auction world, Jarrod was often dismissed as a bottom feeder by veterans like Daryl Sheets and Dave Hester. They had more money and more experience, and they looked down on his desperate take-anything approach. He desperately wanted their respect, but his petty behavior and all-around sour attitude towards his friends and his wife, Brandi Passante, kept him locked out of the inner circle. Jarrod's personality was not just disliked by his rivals. It alienated potential allies. He came across as someone who viewed every interaction as a competition to be won, not a relationship to be built. That mindset, when applied to his life with Brandy, would prove catastrophic. But it wasn't until after 3 years that the public would finally get a hint of something darker that was happening between the couple. What happens when the walls collapse? The bar incident. For nearly 3 years, Brandi Passante had kept her silence about the separation. And through all of it, she had never once publicly blamed Jarrod for anything. Then came the night of April 30, 2021. Brandy was at a bar in Lake Forest, Orange County, surrounded by friends. It was supposed to be a normal night until Jarrod showed up unannounced. What had been a peaceful evening quickly turned into a heated exchange between the former partners. Witnesses said Brandy asked Jarrod to leave. He refused. The argument escalated. And then, according to the Orange County District Attorney's Office, Jarrod allegedly pushed her. Not once, twice. He was yelling at her and her group of friends as he did it. Someone called the police. But by the time officers arrived, Jarrod had already fled the scene. But when Jarrod spoke to the police, he denied ever putting his hands on Brandy. The Orange County District Attorney's Office did not believe him. On May 16, 2021, they charged Jarrod with 1 count of misdemeanor domestic violence battery. He was not arrested at the time of the incident because he had already left the bar. But the charge was filed, and Jarrod Schulz was now officially facing a criminal record that would follow him for the rest of his life. Except that the domestic violence charge was just one of the long list he had built for years. On July 12, 2019, he was involved in an altercation in Lake Forest, California, that led to him being charged with resisting an officer. The criminal complaint did not provide specific details about what had happened, but the charge itself was serious enough: willfully resisting, delaying, or obstructing a public officer in the discharge of their duties. It was punishable by up to 1 year in county jail and a fine of up to $1,000. Jarrod had an arraignment scheduled shortly thereafter. For reasons that remain unclear, the case did not resolve quickly. It lingered, open and unresolved, as his other legal troubles began to multiply. Then came October 2021. Barely 6 months after the bar incident, Jarrod was charged with driving under the influence of alcohol. Court records showed the charge specifically cited a blood alcohol content of 0.08% or more, California's legal limit for intoxication. It was his second run-in with the law in less than a year, and it suggested a man who was spiraling, who had lost whatever anchor had once kept him tethered to stability. By 2023, all 3 criminal cases against Jarrod were still open. They had been combined into a single court proceeding, with hearings and pre-trial dates scheduled throughout the summer of that year. His attorney appeared to be working on a plea deal to avoid an actual trial, but the wheels of justice were turning slowly. But the world was watching, and soon Jarrod's battles were more than legal. What was happening to the legacy he built up all these years? The Disappearing Act, A&E, the network that had made Jarrod a star, could not ignore what had happened. Within days of the domestic violence charge becoming public, the network reportedly launched an internal investigation to determine Jarrod's future on Storage Wars. No official statement was ever released. The network never confirmed whether Jarrod was fired or whether he chose to leave. But the outcome was unmistakable. After season 13 wrapped, Jarrod Schulz never appeared on Storage Wars again. Brandy, by contrast, continued to film. She appeared in seasons 14, 15, and 16, proving that the young guns had never needed both barrels. And in a symbolic moment that fans would later interpret as a final goodbye, season 13 included a bizarre post-credits scene where a character called the Wicked Jester locked Jarrod inside a storage locker, never to be seen again. After his departure from Storage Wars, Jarrod Schulz largely vanished from public view. He did not give tell-all interviews. He did not attempt to rehabilitate his image through podcasts or social media apologies. He simply retreated into a quieter, less visible existence. His Instagram account, once a mix of business promotions and family snapshots, slowed to a trickle. When he did post, it was usually about his new business venture, the Rush Bar and Grill in Lake Forest, California, a restaurant that showed a complete departure from the thrift store empire he had once built with Brandy. He also appeared to have moved on romantically. Photographs surfaced of Jarrod with a new girlfriend, Rochelle Beckman. The couple seemed happy in the limited glimpses they shared online, but they kept their relationship largely private, a stark contrast to the years Jarrod had spent sharing every aspect of his life with millions of television viewers. Meanwhile, his legal cases lingered. As of mid-2023, all 3 charges were still pending, combined into a single court proceeding. There was no dramatic conclusion, no final verdict that would provide closure. Just the slow, grinding uncertainty of a man waiting to learn his fate while the world moved on without him. In many ways, that uncertainty became its own punishment. Jarrod Schulz, who had once thrived on the thrill of the bid, the adrenaline rush of risking everything on a locker he could not see inside, was now living with a different kind of gamble. This time, he was not betting on old furniture or forgotten treasures. He was betting on whether the legal system would show him mercy. And unlike the storage auctions, where he could always walk away and try again another day, this was a gamble with consequences that could not be outrun. The boy from Long Beach, who had spent 16 months in prison for drug possession, had promised himself he would never go back. But the pattern of his life, the drugs at 19, the resisting arrest at 41, the DUI and domestic violence at 43, suggested a man who had never truly escaped his demons. He had simply found better disguises for them. Brandi Passante, meanwhile, continued to build her life without him. And so far, it seems life has been good to her. What has she been up to ever since she said goodbye to her former life? A different brand of brandy.
Oh, flush, just in case you forget. Oh. That is quite a few dildos. And sensual hot wax.
After the split with Jarrod, Brandy obtained full custody of both children. She has kept their lives mostly private, shielding them from the spotlight that burned so brightly during her years on television. But occasionally, she shares heartwarming glimpses. A graduation photo here, a family dinner there, that remind fans that beneath the reality, TV personality is a mother who shows up every single day. Her children are now teenagers, nearly grown, and while much of their lives remain hidden from the public, one thing is clear: they have thrived under their mother's care. Cameron, in particular, has pursued his passion for filmmaking, and Brandy has actively supported his projects, including helping to promote a crowdfunding campaign for a film he directed. She has continued to appear on Storage Wars, proving that she never needed Jarrod by her side to command an auction yard. Season 16 premiered in June 2025, and Brandy remains a central figure, respected by her castmates and beloved by fans. As the only woman on the show for many years, she has spoken candidly about the challenges of working in a male-dominated industry. But her ambitions extend far beyond A&E. In June 2025, Brandy announced the launch of her own podcast, The Real Reality with Brandi Passante. On Instagram, she teased the project with a video captioned, "Shit's about to get real." The podcast, she explained, will feature celebrities from all backgrounds sitting on a sofa and discussing their experiences of fame. It is a natural evolution for someone who spent 15 years navigating the strange, distorting world of reality television, and who has plenty to say about what happens when the cameras stop rolling. Beyond the podcast, Brandy has also expanded her entrepreneurial footprint. She continues to manage her thrift store ventures and has reportedly dabbled in real estate flipping. According to multiple sources, her net worth is estimated to be between $2 million and $4.5 million. She is also rumored to earn approximately $15,000 per episode of Storage Wars, which adds up to a substantial income across a 20-episode season. Perhaps the most striking change in Brandi Passante has been internal. In interviews and on social media, she radiates a confidence that was often muted during her years with Jarrod. Now dating a soft, private gentleman, Clifford Beaver, Brandy has leaned into her personal style, sharing photos that range from playful and relaxed to bold and glamorous. Her fashion choices, fishnets, plunging necklines, and statement pieces reflect a woman who is no longer hiding. She is proud of her body, proud of her independence, and unafraid to show it. She has also been open about her health struggles. Brandy has revealed that she lives with Hashimoto's disease, an autoimmune condition that affects the thyroid and can cause fatigue, weight gain, and depression. Despite the challenges, she has maintained a positive outlook and continues to prioritize her well-being. Brandy has also become involved in charity work, including raising money for organizations that support victims of domestic violence. It is not a role she sought out, but having lived through the nightmare of an abusive relationship, she understands how isolating and terrifying it can be. And she has used her platform to remind other women that they are not alone. What is your favorite Brandy episode? Which version of her do you prefer? Brandy with Jarrod or Brandy without him? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.